everybody, this is Let's Play 2025 June week 3, and this is where I'm starting this week. It's actually exactly as how I ended last week, but I thought I'd start with showing you some of the ideas I have for embellishing. I did already mention in the first video, I think, that I was planning on a hexie's flower in a circle, which is kind of how this whole thing started. And I've got a bunch of this color fabric, but they're all different, that I'm going to make up a little hexagon flower for in there. And then for this one, I'm going to use the feature fabric and use these little triangles, and I will show you what I do with that later. What else? Oh yes, this little daisy. I'm pretty sure I'm going to put it there. And I found this button and I think it's so appropriate. It kind of looks sunshiny and yellow and it fits right there. So I think that's what I'm going to perhaps use it for. I still have these and I was thinking this might be, I'm going to obviously cut some of it away, but as a flower here. And as I was thinking all this stuff and trying to figure out what to put there, I realized there's a lot of flowers and bee things, and I didn't actually really plan that, but with the bee in this fabric and then the hexie flower that's going to look like a honeycomb, it's kind of interesting. And so I thought it really would work too then if I added a few of these in a kind of arc. I thought it would be something like that there. And I still don't know what to do here yet. It might just be a button. I really don't know about this one yet. And then as far as my finishes go, I think, as it is standing at the moment, I'm going to put a half-inch binding here of this fabric. And I really, we'll just imagine that it's half the size of that. Actually a quarter size of that. I really do want to use this. The yellow is a bit on the light yellow side, but because this is there and that's there, it would work. The white is a bit white. The green is covered. I got the green, so that's not an issue. You know me and my matchy-matchies. So anyways, I think the white is a bit overwhelming, but again, with this having that much white and there's white there and white in the background there, it's not screaming no to me. It's just screaming a little loud white. I think that's going to go there. And initially I thought this binding would go here, but I think because that one I think should be on the side because of the way the pattern is. I think I'm going to put this one down here, half the size again, like that. I think that'd go nice as a base. And then, just for tradition's sake, not because it's great match in color. It really actually isn't a great match in color, but it's not awful either. I think I'm going to include this one up here as a topper. So that's my plan at the moment. And I'll come back when I have some progress to share. Good morning. I'm jumping in here because some things have changed and I thought I'd share the progress of that with you. This is the plan, was the plan, and it was just bothering me. I didn't love these or something about them, or I didn't know. So I went to bed last night thinking for sure. I just didn't like, this was too much white is what I thought. Also, this was bugging me, that the hexie, when I drew my circle and all of that, I didn't take into account the stitching was going to come in a bit. So now if I put my hexie together, it's going to overlap on the stitching, and that was bothering me. So anyways, I dug into my trims and I found some more things. I originally thought maybe I could make another one of this, but I've ruled that out. I have seam binding, but it was just a little too shiny. Other than that, I thought that with some embroidery on it would be good, but I just felt it was too shiny. And then I have grosgrain, 2 different green ones and a nice deep yellow one. Now the deep yellow one is a bit too wide for this, I think. Though I did consider, could I fold it in half and do that? And that was a thought. And then I decided, I think this looks really okay, but it still wasn't great. So I was trying to come up with something here, and since I had the thinner grosgrain one, I thought maybe that, but then that was too parallel. So then I also thought, what could I put on the grosgrain, because it can't just seriously be this grosgrain. And because it's also floral, I thought little like daisy flowers or something up and down, and I really like that idea. But I also like this rickrack idea. I thought that was kind of neat, but I like it better on the skinnier one. Oh, sorry, like that. So, but I had 2 slightly different colors of this, and then I decided the lighter yellow was probably the better one. So I ruled it down to that. But the funny thing is, then when I was playing with all of this and I took this away to try and see if I would like it over here, what I discovered is, with that there, without this fabric, I actually like the white again. So it was like, oh, now it's cute again. So I think I am going to put one of these grosgrains on the left here and get rid of that other fabric. It's just pinned. I didn't sew it yet. And then either do the rickrack or do an embroidery flower. Haven't fully decided yet. So that's solved. This was still bugging me. And in my sleepy brain this morning, I was thinking, I'm going to take each of these little prepared hexies apart. And then I thought, that's just silly. Why don't you just start fresh? So I got out my hexie cardboards again and considered cutting, because my die cut only cuts a specific size, and this is with the smallest it does. So I considered cutting a piece off of each of these, and I thought, that's really like a pain to make up more. I did have more swatches I could remake these. And then it occurred to me, slowly but surely, once the coffee kicked in, that why don't I just make a new circle that's slightly bigger? What a difference a thought makes, because that's the simplest. I easily can take this circle off, and yes, I will have done all that chain stitching for nothing, but I have come to a knowledge in my stitching life that if something bugs me enough, it's so worth half an hour of redoing something and living with it that you love than having it always niggling, bothering you. So that's what I'm going to do. I cut myself a slightly bigger circle, and I'm going to stitch it down instead so that the hexagon can be in the middle with the stitching around. So now I get to go on with my day and start stitching, but I've had to share all that kerfuffle first thing this morning that happened to me. For those that have not English paper pieced before and are curious as to how I do it anyways, I thought I'd share that for my last, I only have 1 hexie more to cover for my flower. My hexie flower. So you start out with a cardboard template, like a cardstock, not a thick cardboard, because you're going to be removing it after the fact. And you put it on the back of your fabric, and you're going to need to leave about a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around when you cut it out. So you have the ability to flip it over the side, and I'll show you what a finished one actually, how that looks there. Okay. Now I did show for them in March how to make hexies using a circle, And for those single flowers, that work just fine. And even if you're going to stitch them together, that also works fine. But with the English paper piecing, because you have the cardboard along the edge, you're more sure that the patches are all going to fit together nicely. So you start, it doesn't have to be pretty, it's only on the back, and it's only so you have flip over amounts. So I like to flip the first side over with and hold it with a paper clip. Some people maybe use those clips. I don't actually have any clips, so I don't. Now, the color of thread on the back doesn't really matter, but I happen to have the matching color. So you put regular sewing thread on your needle and you knot the bottom. And then I'm doing this right-handed. You probably do it opposite if you're left-handed. So on my first corner to the right, I'm going to flip the next side over like that so that they cross. And I'm going to go through both of them with my thread, and I'm going to do a second through them and maybe even a third if I don't feel like it's staying enough, but usually 2 is enough. And I just hold it there with that thread. Then I turn the hexagon and I do the same on the next top right corner. I flip it down and I hold it with my left thumb, and I take that first stitch, which will take the thread across from where I did it before, so that you have a traveling thread there. And all of this can stay because you don't have to take it out because it's on the back. And if you notice, I'm not using glue. I'm not a fan of glue in my quilting, though I should say I do use fusible webbing sometimes, and that is a kind of glue too, but I'm just talking about the dabbing kind of glue. I have never used it, and I'd prefer to baste. Okay, I'm doing this through the camera, so I'm being klutzier than if I was looking at it properly. All right, and then I take the next corner and take a couple stitches, and the next corner. And your stitches don't even have to be pretty. They just have to hold the fabric where you want it to stay. And then the second last corner. Then I take my paper clip off and I lift up the fold from that first side and I tuck in this corner and put it, and then put the fold back down. You don't probably have to, but in this, doing it this way, it keeps all the folds in the same direction. But like I said, it's not vital. It's just for my brain to be happy. And then I take a knot or 2, and I even carry my thread over to leave a bit of a tail under the fabric, and that gives you a folded hexie. Now to stitch them together, you arrange them in an order that you like, and there is actually a good way to stitch them, but I'll just show you the actual stitching first. So you put 2 of them right sides together. I like to stitch my patches to the center. And you have a length of sewing thread again with a knot in the end. And in this case, oh, I should mention, give them a press with an iron. That also helps make the seams, the word is escaping me, better folded? No. Okay, never mind. I think you get what I'm saying. So with your needle, that's going to bug me now. I come up at the corner of the first, so I'm going to sew this side. I'm coming up on the right-hand side of the side I'm going to stitch at the corner, and I'm going under the thread but above the paper so that my knot is inside. And then I like to work that way. And what I do is I take a little tiny stitch on the opposite patch and then go back to the where I had just come out. So I have a loop, and then before my loop, I pull through, but before my loop completely pulls through, I like to put my needle through it, so it kind of makes a little bit of just a single knot at the top. And then I just keep going and doing that all the way along, and I keep my stitches pretty close together because there's, I don't know, if you don't, or if you use thread that is very visible, it'll show when you open up your patches on the other side, and you want the patches to be butted up against each other, preferably without stitching showing. So I guess I'm going 1/16 of an inch, no, maybe even a 32nd of an inch. I don't mind going tiny stitches. I think the effort is worth the final, the look of the final piece. The finer is how I think of it. But not everybody. You do as you do. Always, please, never take what I'm saying as you have to do it this way. This is just how I do it. This is something that's so easy to do when you're traveling. I keep some hand piecing. I have an apple core on the go, and I have that in my bag. So if I'm away waiting somewhere, I've always got patches to stitch together. And you don't have to bring the whole quilt. You just have to bring a few patches in a sewing kit, in a like a pencil case almost, where you can have a spool of thread and some needles and your patches that are covered, or your patches that are to be covered. Now with my English paper piecing, I actually stitched through the cardboard and held the fabric that way. Hexies have this little bit of a folded, quicker method, but not all patches are like that. Okay, so when I get to the opposite end, I go through just those last 2 points, and I take a couple of stitches there. And I'm not going to cut my thread off yet because I probably can start stitching the next patches together right from here. So that's them together, and if you can see, you can't even see my stitches. All right, so that's open now. Now this is the next patch. Where's my thread there? So this is the next patch that starts here. So I'm going to put that down. Double check that. I think so, yes. And then repeat on this edge, these 2 edges. And you just keep adding patches until your flower's together. But when it comes to just so this video isn't very, very long. I'll show you further along where you will have to fold patches to get them to align, which is all okay. All right, I'll continue and come back. Okay, I've stitched all the patches to the centerpiece now, and I still haven't cut my thread. What I'm going to do now, and why I came back on, is I want to stitch these patches to each other. So I'm going to start with the pair that are close to where my thread is, and I'm going to align the two sides from them that I need to attach. But to do so, that means you have to bend the cardboard in the center, and that's totally okay. Just bend the cardboard. And then I'll just continue stitching. Now, when I get to the end of this one, I will need to knot off, which, you know, I'll take 2 stitches, and then I will carry my thread underneath with the tail, and I will then start up and do the next one and knot off, start up and do the next one and knot off. If you were stitching something bigger, you would plan the stitching differently so that you could carry over more, but it's just this, you know, it's small. But I also, before I forget, want to point out that if you do that and you stitch the if you're interested in making English paper piecing hexies, you can also make yourself this cute little hexie pin cushion, and I have a free tutorial on my website to this tutorial. Look for playing with pin cushions, or it's also in my take along hand stitching section. So either one, it's the same tutorial, and it's made with English paper piecing too. Okay, I will be back with the piece, and by then this will be completely stitched together. I finished stitching my hexagons together into this hexie flower, and it actually will fit in the new circle just, but it will, so I'm happy about that. Now I wanted to show you how to take out the cardboards. You first give it a good press so that all your edges are nicely flat, and then with some kind of pokey tool, in this case I've got a seam ripper, you go under on one side of the hexie and carefully just pop that cardboard, the corner out, and it all comes out. Now, if you're making a hexie quilt, you wouldn't pop the cardboards out until you've stitched on all sides, but since this is all I'm stitching, I'm popping them out now. Because I gave, oh, actually, there, I did it wrong. You should, when you're popping it out, just for keeping things together, try and pop them out from the side of the center, as opposed to the edge that has nothing butted up against it. And what I'm going to do after this is I'll give it another press, and then I will baste it down in the middle of the circle, and I will blind stitch it, or the applique stitch is blind stitching. I will blind stitch it down to the background of the circle. There. Easy, soft, beautiful. Stepping in here for a second just to share something. I think I showed this earlier, that I was a possibility for one of my edgings, and I still really like it, except for this mossy green here. So I decided in my head that wouldn't it be neat to just use the loops, the yellow loops, and put one in each of the openings here. But I have to tell you, I don't like the result, and this was a lot of stitching even just to get this result I didn't like. So I stopped. I haven't taken it out yet so I could show you, but I was, yeah, disappointed in that. And then, don't worry, I already have a plan B. I just have to get to the garage first. Then I had originally pictured in my head possible yellow daisy loops here all around the middle going towards the center. And then it occurred to me that this trim has a lot of lovely loops that I would like to take advantage of. So then I pictured it doing this around the center, just like I would do embroidery instead. But I still didn't like those mossy loops that were in between the sets. So what I've done, and that's why I'm on here to show you, I have stitched them to the back so they're not going to show. You can stand up, see if you can see it. You can see it here where I stitched them to the back. Here's one where they're not stitched to the back, and then this is stitched. And basically what I did is I travel my thread through, just so it's not a big loose piece, from across the loopy parts. Did I? No, of course. Okay, so now I'm in the center, or close to the, sorry about the camera, close to the center of here. So I put my needle, sorry, I was off camera there. I put my needle through the loops from the back and pull them forward, and then hold them there and take a couple of stitches to just hold them there, one on either side. I'm not doing this great because I'm trying to do it on camera and be able to see it all at the same time. Oh, there's me hitting the camera again, sorry. And then I do the other side, same thing, needle through the loops and pull it to the back and take a couple of stitches. And that's going to hold the mossy loops that I'm not crazy about. It's going to hide them in the back. And now the reason I'm not just cutting them off is because that just makes everything unravel. You can see it here. It just unravels. So it's better not to trim it. So I'm stitching it to the back instead. And then this is how, let me put my needle away. This is how it looks once it's stitched to the back. So that'll be cute around there. All right, off. Oh, and you can see I stitched my hexie down. Really pleased with how that turned out. Okay. Here's where I'm going to end this week, and I will finish it completely next week. I basted these down here. I think I'm liking that. The button will go there. I still have my plan for here. I hope it works as my imagination wants it to. I haven't decided between this lighter green, which actually is similar to this lighter green, and I don't have a lot of on here, or the yellow or crack. I don't know yet. It's not, neither of them are saying it's me over that one. They both are equally interesting. So the way I'm planning on stitching this down might influence that. If I can find myself some embroidery floss in this light green, then that might balance. I will show you that I did a blanket stitch on this edge under this trim because of the way the trim is with the scallops. It wasn't going to be giving me that nice finish, so I decided to finish it first, and then I will stitch the trim down. And then I originally had this one, you might remember, And when I first put it here, I just didn't, I didn't like it. And I wasn't thinking about why I didn't like it. I didn't love it, I should say. So then I went to my plan B and I cut these out, and that fits beautifully, but this isn't sitting well with me. There's too much of this red and yeah, or rust. I wasn't enjoying this, so I'm going to take that apart. And what I decided I didn't like about this and that I like about this is full. And these two flowers just didn't fill it. So what I did is I dug a little and I found more of where I got this originally from, and I found a few more of the flowers on the print. I don't have much of this, so I was limited to what I will have. And I think if I put these just a certain way, they will fill this space up, and I will probably like it as much. And the colors are definitely, they definitely work for me. So there's that. All right, I have one more week to go to finish this completely, but here's where I'm stopping it this week. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Like and comment. I love hearing what you think about the piece. If you got opinions about which of these two rickrack I should use, please let me know. Yeah, and I'll see you next week.